I think one of the big things, and it's how we started Liquid Gym as well, or anything else, it was the passion, but it was also looking for innovation. What makes it different? And that's how we built Liquid Gym. That's how we started the innovation with Interaction, which was the multimedia company. It's what is out there that's new, that's different, that's trending. And I am a voracious reader. I love reading. And so what's in the news? What's trending? What's the latest thing? What's the bleeding edge? What's the leading edge? So how is that going to take us to the next place? So give me something to search and I'll go find the answer. Or I'll find out that there's no answer, which then tells me something else.
This is Secrets for Success.
Welcome to the Secrets for Success podcast. I'm your host, Greg Todd. Thank you, as always, for joining me. I have two amazing people here today, and they truly are amazing because you both have really amazing stories. These two amazing people are not from the USA. They are from, I'm going to call it Canada. That's what I call my Canadian friends. I'm just joking. Anyways, Karen Stydar, Irene Hammerich, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Okay, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background, and I think there's something really unique about your background when it comes to being
here,
practice and all the other stuff. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
So we've both been entrepreneurs for the past number of years. The reason we met Greg is we wanted to look at, we have a clinic up in Ottawa that is a hydrotherapy clinic, and we wanted to expand what we're doing with it.
Okay.
As entrepreneurs, it was opened actually because in
2000?
Yeah.
When did you break your leg?
I know. I have a blank here, but 15 years ago.
Okay.
I broke my leg, and I was playing hockey, and 15 seconds changed my life because all of a sudden I couldn't do what I wanted to be doing, which was working as an entrepreneur. And we ended up coming down to the States looking at alternatives because my physiotherapy wasn't going so well, as you called it, physical therapy, wasn't going so well. So we ended up coming down and just looking at alternatives, and we looked at underwater treadmills, underwater bikes. And at that point, we thought this is something we have to bring back to Canada. And we did. We came back at that point. Irene was working full time. I was doing other work as an entrepreneur. And we came back with the idea. I wrote a business plan. I thought we need to open, and we called the clinic that is now called Liquid Gym. We opened it, actually I broke my leg in 2008, just after we ran the Disney Marathon. Yeah.
By the way, it's so funny. We actually found out that we were at the same place, and that was my first marathon I ever ran. That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so it was just that. Last year I came home from that, February 27th, and then it broke my leg. And that summer, because therapy wasn't going so well, it was a difficult break, ended up in the States. We looked at options, came back, said, we're going to do this. We're going to open up a clinic that is a hydrotherapy clinic. So started writing business plans, started raising the funds to do this. And it's funny because I called the manufacturers and I said, well, can you give names of other places that are similar to what we want to do? And there was a pause at the end of the phone. And he said, I thought, what happened? What did I ask?
Yeah.
And there's no other clinic that had done.
There's no other clinic in Canada that's
no,
done
in the States.
Oh, in the States.
Because of
Combination of gym and also
yeah,
therapy.
some massive, well, not massive gym, but it was a gym component plus therapy side of it. So we ended up from scratch. We decided we would have 4 pools, so we completely redesigned how we were going to be doing this. And we opened in, it was November 7th, 2013.
So, but to add into the story, the reason for the aquatic side, we saw the value of it because of our own aquatic backgrounds. Okay, we were pool rats growing up, and so we were teaching swimming. We were lifeguards. Karen also started in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, the adapted aquatics programs. And so that is part of the original history. We knew the value of water. And as soon as that happened, the wheels just started to spin.
Well, so when you came to the States,
Yep.
so you break your leg in February
Yep.
of 2008.
Yep.
You can't find what you're looking for in Canada.
Yep.
You come to the States. Did you do rehab in the States, aquatic rehab, or no?
No, what we ended up doing is going to 2 manufacturers, and we just tested the product there.
Right.
And so this Irene was actually in the local pool. Her sister every day for 3 months, took her to the local pool, deep water running with all the folks in the pool. Just
Well, this was in Ottawa.
kind of thing.
Yeah, this was all.
As soon as within 2 weeks, Karen's rehab completely changed of being in the water, and that was the big.
No, I should have known this because a long time ago, when I was 21, so it'd be about 40 some years ago, I started as Irene said, the Adapted Aquatics program for the Canadian Red Cross in New Brunswick. So I drove around 7 cities and started the programs. I actually developed the program, started the programs, trained the instructors, and so Adapted Aquatics was working with individuals, so multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, Parkinson's, stroke, heart attacks. These were the individuals I was working with. So I was training the trainers to do the programs.
Gotcha.
So I had a pretty good idea of what I was doing, but then, life changes, I do other things, so I kind of left that behind. When I broke my leg, it was like, I don't know what happened. It was like why am I not in the water? So by the time I could get into the water, I could take the cast off. It was a walking cast at that point. I ended up going into the pool, and it was, as Irene said, it was just like night and day. Within 2 weeks, like, holy moly, what am I doing? So that's why we said we got to go find what's available. So we did the research, and we found these cool underwater treadmills and underwater bikes. So we ended up going down and testing them. From there, we came back. That's when I wrote the plan. By the time we had everything in place, it was $1.5 million to set up our facility, which has 3,000 square foot of pools, so 4 pools, 8 treadmills, a dozen bikes, plus a whole a number of other pieces of equipment that we use in the pools.
So there's a lot here to unpack, and I want to talk about your journey, both of your journeys as entrepreneurs. So you've been an entrepreneur for how many years?
45.
Okay. And you've been an entrepreneur.
I've been an entrepreneur on and off, and one of the things and I learned about my life in the business world by saying I didn't want to go into an organization where I had to maintain something. I was brought into organizations to either start something or fix it.
Gotcha.
The middle phase was not where I wanted to be because there was no energy in it. And
Okay.
so it's like I actually started an athletic complex at a university in the Maritimes. I started a national organization funded by the federal government. And so everything was a startup to say, hey, this is what it is. When careers changed and I went to Georgia Tech and brought it back, it was a multimedia company. And so it was a software development company for interactive multimedia, the web at the time. There was a whole series of things that started to happen and explode. And then we turned around and we actually closed the business after we created a major product for the federal government language training program in Canada. And we ended up selling. We sold that, and then we turned around and said, okay, well, what's next? And I went off in one direction. I was actually headhunted to go into multimedia and technical writing component for a life sciences company. So that's where I really was immersed into that corporate world and systems and processes and all that crazy stuff. And so from that, it was, okay, I'm coming back to Ottawa. And as a result of coming back to Ottawa, I ended up working with another organization that said, we need somebody in education design. So education design started a whole other world, even though I'm a teacher by training. And so that's the other side of life. So teacher by training, education design, new technologies, that was where I was coming from. And then again, different changes happen in life. And in the meantime, I was working in the way, way back end of Liquid Gym. And as a result of that, I would just go in, work with clients at the end of the day. Karen would run the business during the daytime. I was in my corporate world. And then it was, okay, life changed again. Now I'm back into what Liquid Gym is. And so I work the back end as well. Don't have any clients right now. So I had about 20 at the time I was working with faithfully, day in, day out. So, yeah, there's the world.
So this is interesting because you've had many businesses, right? Here's my question to kind of both of you. So Liquid Gym, it was started out of a need for you.
Right.
You broke your leg.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, what I need is not here. And you're like, all right,
it wasn't good enough.
this is not good enough.
Yep.
And you saw a solution.
Yeah.
You said, okay, I'm going to create this, right? How many businesses have you created that it was actually created from a problem that you had?
Problem that I had, well, Wise Kids, which was a daycare supply company out of Toronto. I saw, it's like, what we saw is the cost to bring basketballs into gyms and basketballs into like just small phys ed equipment was horrendous. So we started, before we started Wise Kids, we actually started, we would go and buy auctions, go to auctions, buy equipment, and then we would sell it off. So we buy lot sales.
Yep.
So we bought lot sales of a number of different things. They were always sports minded because that's where we were focusing. We just, because at the time I ran a YMCA, I was a phys ed director at the Y, and I just saw this apply by how much it was costing us to buy basketballs. So I thought there's a need there. So that's why that one company was formulated. Then it happened that I was picked up because I was working at the Y, and I started to, I can't really work. This is one of my very small stints of working. It was 18 months. I seem to have a lifespan of 18 months of working for somebody. It was always 18 months. 18 months.
Anymore.
I can't do anymore. So they said, so I got to resign. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to start a daycare supply. And they had, at the time, it was a mentorship program for entrepreneurs. So that was the YMCA, and they coached you on how to run a business. So I worked with that for a while. And then due to a circumstance that happened, we ended up seeing a very traumatic accident, and I just couldn't handle being in Toronto, so we decided to move to Ottawa. So I moved up there and thought, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm up here. I think I actually realized, I thought, you know what, in order to run a business, I have to get an accounting degree. I thought, that's what I'm lacking, right? I had run 2 businesses now. So I enrolled in school, an accounting school, and I lasted exactly six weeks. I said,
Okay.
this is
Well, that's
I just,
a little bit less than your 18. So
it just wasn't the right. I thought, I don't need accounting to run a business. I don't need to go to school to do this. So then there's an opportunity that opened up that, again, the YMCA, we're looking for someone who's going to run the Entrepreneurship Center. And so I ended up going there. Again, that other 18 months, and I was like, I have to move on. I was actually headhunted to start up in Ottawa. There was an Entrepreneurship Center that was through the city of Ottawa, and they were looking for a consultant that was going to run it. So after leaving the YMCA, they hired me to set up this Entrepreneurship Center, which was unbelievable. There's 3 of us. We saw 3,000 clients a month.
Wow.
3,000 clients that we met with every month, and we helped them start businesses. And it's funny now, I look back, there's actually a physio clinic that I helped start like 25 years ago, 40 years.
Wow.
How long it was. Yeah. So still all kinds of different businesses.
Okay.
So I was there 18 months. And, the reason I left is I felt guilty getting a paycheck. I loved it.
Because you love it so much, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it, but I thought, this is wrong. How can I consult? How can I coach businesses when I have a cushy job and I don't have to worry about bringing money in? And, it sounds kind of crazy, but that was just what I felt. So then left that and started a business called Business in a Box, which was to teach entrepreneurs and I had like the day in the life of an entrepreneur. So I set up a program, and we actually set it up. So we'd come for the day, and I would have all kinds of props set up. So we would what's it teaching you? This is what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So throwing things at you. Oh, we just found out the phones went out. So what are you going to do? Or just found out you got to pay this bill and you've got no money in the bank. How are you going to do it? So it was a day in the life of an entrepreneur.
Wow.
So that was Business in a Box.
So, as you all can hear, we have a lot of business acumen, a lot of systems acumen, someone that only wants to start projects and fix projects, someone that is willing to basically create a business in many different sectors. I know I'm the business coach, but can I start to ask you all questions about business?
Absolutely.
You work, okay, so I'm going to start with you, Karen. So you've, at your, the place that you're working at where you had 3,000 clients that would come in like a month, and you've seen a lot of people start businesses. I'm sure you've also seen a lot of people fail, and you've seen, quite a few succeed. Can you give me 1 or 2 constants that you see in the ones that fail, and maybe 1 or 2 constants in the ones that succeed?
I think, well, not knowing cash flow is a big one, is not understanding how important your cash flow was. So we used to teach you would have a positive cash flow, negative cash flow, conservative cash flow. And it's like, let's just work on that. I mean, you can do all the marketing you want, but if you have no money in the bank, you're not going to succeed.
Right.
And if you have no idea where the money is going to come from, you're not going to succeed. So I think the biggest thing that we really focused on is where's your money going to come from, but where's it going?
Right.
You know, you work so hard to get it, but where is it going? So I think one of the things I used to say is you're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Just don't make the same mistake twice.
Right.
And as long as you don't do that, most of the times you're going to be successful because you're going to learn. If you learn from every mistake and you do it differently, more than likely you are going to be successful.
Right.
A lot of the time, so when I started, we were dealing with a lot of federal employees because there was a lot of layoffs at the time. And I thought somebody was actually joking with me. And they said, yep, I've been walking through that door for the past 40 years. And I thought, what are you talking about? So that's what I've done. For the past 40 years, I've walked through the same door going to work. And now this person wanted to start a business.
Right.
Because there was a lot of money available for federal employees to start business. And I just thought that's when I looked at starting a day in the life of an entrepreneur, because you really have to feel it. You have to understand it. You have to know what you're getting into. And you have to be passionate about it. The people that didn't succeed didn't have the passion. They were doing it for the money. Or they were doing it for, somebody said, you'd be great at that. But it was their actual passion. Because if you have passion, you're going to stay awake at night. You're going to make sure that that last sale goes out or that last thing that has to be done is going to be done if you've got the passion behind you.
So passion and just understanding money and cash flow. Coming in, coming out. What are you doing with the money? How are we allocating it? Okay. Irene, do you have any other things? Because you've seen a lot of businesses as well. Do you have any things of what you feel are just constants on what you've seen of why people succeed versus those that are failing?
I think one of the big things, and it's how we started, like with Jim as well, or anything else, it was the passion, but it was also looking for innovation. One makes it different. And that's how we built Liquid Gym. That's how we started the innovation with Interaction, which was the multimedia company. It's what is out there that's new, that's different, that's trending. And I am a voracious reader. I love reading. And so what's in the news? What's trending? What's the latest thing? What's the bleeding edge? What's the leading edge? So how is that going to take us to the next place? So give me something to search and I'll go find the answer. Or I'll find out that there's no answer, which then tells me something else. So,
Right.
And if you aren't comfortable in that world, or picking up the telephone or picking up the newspaper or seeing something that's different and going, what can I do with that? How can I do something with it? A hobby was or is actually photography. So when I look at something, it's how can I do that differently? How can I get a better view of it? How can I think of it differently? So there's a creative bent to it. The ones that get stuck in those places get really stuck. And sometimes we get stuck ourselves. So that's why we come here. You know, we need to become unstuck. Not that you lose energy, it's just you lose it internally. And so you're looking for something. And it was interesting being in the corporate world is the ones who, that's where they just want to be. They want the paycheck, they want the steadiness, the stability, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that's not the way we are. You know, we like the energy that comes from trying something new. Does it work? Does it not work? Does it fail? Does it succeed? And that's where we come from.
Okay. So let me kind of tell you this. So my background's a little bit different on how I got into this. I am a clinician at heart. And I truly thought that because I was a good clinician, or so I thought, I was a skilled clinician, I was working with some top level people, that justified why I was going to be able to have a practice and do well. I mean, obviously I'm no different today, right?
Yeah.
And I'm listening to everything that two of you just said. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. And a lot of people don't understand that. You know, even though you might not have, I'm talking to Irene now, like you might not have been a entrepreneur at heart from the get-go, the behaviors that you exude are very entrepreneurial. You're looking for problems in the marketplace, whether it's a problem that you have had or it's a problem that you see other people having, and you're looking for these gaps.
Yeah.
And from the gaps, you're like, wait a minute, there's something here. And I think a lot of us as clinicians, that's not why we got to business. We truly thought that we're so good that we could make it this in spite of our ineptitude with business. Okay, so now with that said, you all are running a healthcare practice and you are not healthcare professionals. So I feel like there is something you're going to be able to answer for us that I can't answer. What do you see is the limiting factors in clinicians that are running practices?
They are focused on their patient, and which is great, but that's what they're focused on. They're not focused on what's the next thing that's going to help them treat their patient. Like, we had 20 staff. When I go and they get nervous when we go away. They're petrified when we come back. They're like, holy moly, what are you guys going to come back with? Because they know we're going to come back with something, and we've already told them what we're doing. But they are, because they're so set in their ways, this is not their nature. And when we have a clinic director, we have a clinic manager, and they are both, they want to learn. They are definitely, they're just itching to understand the business, but their mindset is so different of what business is. So I mean, that's a challenge. Your mindset. I mean, you were not normal. You were not.
I've changed, Karen. I've changed,
Yeah.
obviously a lot, but I do remember how I was, and I think because of that, I'm able to connect with so many people that are there. That not when they're there. Okay, it's when they thought that, wait a minute, I can do this. Like, everybody wants me. Everybody wants to work with me. And then you go and do it. And this is what happens. They go and do it. They're like, oh, crap. Like, I don't have any money or this and that or whatever. And you realize that I am so inept in these other areas. And then you kind of hit a breaking point. And I believe I'm just there when people hit that breaking point, like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, oh, yeah, trust me. Like, I know.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, too, is people don't recognize first of all, in school, you're not trained to be a business person. You're trained to be a clinician. So here's part one. But I think then it's because of that, and I'm not going to call it an ego, but it is an ego that's...
It is.
I'm good in this place, so that means I can open a clinic. Oh, and then Monday morning hits, and you didn't sleep Sunday night because you didn't know what to expect from all of a sudden running a business.
Right.
And I think that's part of what happens to a lot of people. And it's not, dreams are really good. Dreams are fabulous, and they want to open a second location, a third location. But then we're pulling people back and saying, but how are you going to get there? Money is one thing. All of a sudden you've got HR. All of a sudden you have to look at facility. You have to look at different systems. So that's where we play off the systems and processes piece. And also it's, how do you manage people?
Right.
So part of the way we look at hiring is we say attitude comes first because it's culture. We can teach you anything beyond that.
Yeah.
And it's always been like that, no matter what venture we've done. And so if we can teach somebody, they can go and take a course on MSK on something.
Right.
But if they haven't got the right attitude to come in and be a good person, build those relationships in a clinic, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
You know how many people hire based off of clinical skill set and not off of attitude? And it ends up being a total disaster. Yeah.
Well, attitude's everything.
Yeah.
The culture is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, our patients come back to us because the first thing, I mean, we joke about it, but if I go around and I said, what is that patient's name? And they don't know, it's a joke, they'll be fired on the spot. They have to know every patient. And we have hundreds of patients come in every day.
Right.
But they have to know, because that patient coming to the door, it's not just coming for the physical therapy. It's coming for the emotional therapy. It's coming because this is a very warm environment. I mean, pre-COVID, we used to have a puzzle table, and it was a huge boardroom table in our front lobby area, and patients would come, and they would come early for their patients, leave late, and they would do the puzzle. And we had a lending library that they would take books. So it's not just, we truly believe, yes, when you get in the water, or yes, when you're doing the physical therapy out in the back with the equipment, the land equipment, yes, it's important. But we do believe if you're healing here and you're healing here, the physical will come.
It's going to come. Yeah.
It's going to come.
Well, you created an experience with your client base. Okay. Yeah. This is really important. I truly believe, by the way, that's part of the reason why I wanted you all in my world. Okay. That's my agenda. You know Gwen Clausen? Do you all know her?
No.
Okay. So Gwen, this is in so listen to this story. In 2022, in my inner circle, I only allow 10 people at a time to be in that group, right? The platinum, I can grow it. The inner circle, I have to meet with them like every 3 months. So it's, you want a small group, and I want to be able to really kind of work on their issue, Anyways, we had one person drop out of the inner circle. So we had, and by the way, that person was in Canada.
Oh.
Okay, all right, it's still in Canada, yeah.
Okay.
And she was amazing, but it was during the COVID time, and you guys are still under so much lockdown and couldn't leave and whatnot, and we were free to do what we wanted to do, and it was just like, it didn't make sense for her to stay anymore because she couldn't attend the events. I totally get it. Anyways, so I had one spot open, and really it was Brittany that said, hey, do you want to open that spot to anyone? I was like, well, I said, you know what? There's only one person. I don't really know her very well, but I want to hear a little bit more because I think she's a non-clinician that has a clinical practice. So I talked to her the next day and said, all right, I want to offer you the ability to come to my inner circle strictly for this reason and this reason only. You are the only non-clinician that has a clinical practice. And I believe that I want to break people's false beliefs that they need to be a clinician in order to have a successful practice. And I was like, my hypothesis is that non-clinicians actually create much better clinical businesses. Anyways, she joined that day.
Okay.
She is Entrepreneur of the Year this year.
Yeah, that's cool.
So she's had the biggest rise since being in our programs. And so I say all that for this reason.
Wow.
It has been so easy to work with her
Oh, interesting.
versus everybody else that has businesses. And I find that with you all too.
Yeah.
I think I personally think this is what it is, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice to go into the clinic. You don't have that choice. So you have to flex your entrepreneurial muscles. You have to flex your leadership muscles. You have to flex your visionary muscles. People can't follow you and admire you because of your clinical prowess. Right? They can't, right? But there's so much more to it. And actually, that's not the worst thing you could have, right? And so I just feel like that's what it is. Tell me, am I right or am I wrong?
It's interesting because with the shortage of physios we are now going through in Canada, in one sense, a lot of other clinic owners I know, they're like, well, they'll step in, and we can't.
Can't, right?
Yep, we can't. Yes, we are trainers. Yes, we could do that, and that is an aspect of our business. But as far as physios, so we really can't step in and work that extra, 5 hours or 12 hours to make sure that we can be service. So we have to figure out how are we going to do this, and that has brought the uniqueness, the innovation, and that's why we bring equipment into the complex so that we make the therapist's job easier. Because and that was a model that came from the States, like our underwater treadmills and the Alter G anti-gravity treadmill. Part of this is we brought it because we looked at the model that is in the States. The faster you rehab, the better equipment you have, the faster you rehab, the faster the patients could be in, and they're going to be out. And that's what we want. We want them in, we want them out, rehab properly. But if you have the right equipment, now there's a cost to that. There's there's a capital cost of doing that. But that was from the very beginning that we looked at. How are we going to get these patients in? We're going to treat them well and provide our staff also a culture that they feel proud of. They're unique because we are a unique place in Ottawa. We're a unique place in Canada.
And we're taking a trend, there's a trend shift that's going on for staffing too, and that's the other thing, and it's only just starting to happen. When we first opened the doors, physios wanted to come and work with us, which was fantastic, and it was because it was different.
Right.
And they had the toys, they had the gadgets, they had the machinery. But also what happened is then, okay, they got tired, and that's fair ball. And then in between things, COVID hit. And now we've pivoted again, and we've changed our entire staffing model and how we actually have structured the business, which was an important piece, because then how do you still maintain what your belief and your vision is, but your staffing has to change to that. Then on top of that, now for whatever is going on in the marketplace, we're getting, again, different people wanting to come and work with us. Not necessarily physios, because many of them have left the field.
Right.
But what we're finding is now we're getting the kinesiologists, the human kinetics folks, who are coming in and saying, I see that because when I've now graduated from school, I'm going to be able to take my gap year, do whatever I need. I'm applying to physio school. I'm going to actually be a better physio when I go to school.
Right.
Simply because I've got solid experience because of the mentorship that goes on. And mentorship in our program is our senior physios mentorship. If you can't mentor somebody, we have a real problem now.
Right.
So that's part of our model, and it's our business model too.
Yeah. I think for those of you listening, you need to understand, number one, what makes you unique, what makes you different in a marketplace, but not just unique to your customer base. What makes you unique to people that you want to actually serve your customer base, right? And that's going to change. The market is going to create contributing factors constantly, right? Whether it's physiotherapy schools way too much money now, so not as many people are coming in. So we don't have as much of a pipeline of people coming in, right? Or this is going on, this new legislation just hit in Canada, this new legislation just hit in America, you got a new prime minister, you have a new president, you have this, you have that. Yes, all these things are contributing factors. That's part of dealing with business. You have to be willing to look at the trends, look at what's going on, adapt, understanding that you're in constant recruiting mode for new people coming in. Yeah. And sometimes it's going to be a surplus of people, sometimes it's not. Yeah. And then it really doesn't matter. You're always in service mode of figuring out how it is that you're going to serve your clients. And so you have to find new opportunities, new ways to be able to make sure that our clients are serviced regardless of what's going on in the marketplace. Yeah. You all do that really well. And I want to do a second episode with you all, okay, about some of the things that you're planning on doing. But before I finish this out, if there is one piece of advice, just one, that you could give someone that's considering entrepreneurship, or maybe they're a newbie, what would you give them?
Don't be afraid.
Okay.
Don't be afraid. There will be challenges every day. There will be things you have to look out for. There will be days or nights you don't sleep, but don't be afraid of the next day.
That's normal.
Learn, and it can be clinical learning, it can be mental, it can be emotional learning, it can be business learning, but never stop, because there's always something new and different, or someone who will be able to support you, and you have to keep going with that all the time.
Love it. Love it. Kara, you got anything?
Passion.
Passion.
If you don't have passion, you won't succeed. Because in those dark days, it's dark.
Yeah.
And you have to have reason. Why are you doing this? If you're doing it for the money, don't do it. Because that will wear out.
Yeah.
You know, money, no. If it's your passion, you'll go to the end of the world to make sure it's going to work.
Right.
Because it's your passion.
It's your passion.
It has to come from your heart.
Yeah. I feel like my entire journey as an entrepreneur has been led with my heart. I mean, I try to lead with my mind, but I can tell you that my communication is through my heart. Me being able to show up for my people is just through passion, and just being obsessed. Like, I know last night you all woke up like really early in the morning, and apparently it's a routine thing. Everyone's just right, but it's just passion. It's, love it so much. I got to figure this out.
It's so much fun, though.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's always, if it's not fun, stop doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's, you always have to, I mean, I get excited because I just thrive on new stuff. I thrive on seeing other people. I thrive when patients walk through, they go into our pool and they're hurting and oh my goodness, they're so sore. And they come out and they're like, the joy on their face Like,
Yeah.
people have been told you never walk again.
Yeah.
People have been told that, oh, you're never going to do this or X, Y, Z. And then come out and they have a life.
Right.
That's
It's amazing.
Now that's our passion.
Yeah.
And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I just say one thing before we end the podcast?
I know it.
I do want to honor you. And now I'm going to honor you based on something that happened yesterday. Okay? Sorry. This is what I do. Okay? I work with people. I do this all the time. And I think a lot of people are attracted to my energy because I don't just teach a concept. There is energy that comes from it. And if there's not a story that I can give, I can't teach it.
Right.
Okay? So if I know I'm pushing energy out to people. All right. Sometimes energy is being given back to me. Not all the time. Yesterday, you brought me energy.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yesterday, you brought me energy. It's not anything you particularly said, but I can feel when I'm getting energy back from people. It doesn't happen very often, but I can feel it's the excitement. It's the aha. I can look at you. This is why I need you here, because I can look at you. I can see when something just clicked. I saw like 3 or 4 times, Irene, where something's like, and you respond different than Karen. And you lean forward.
That's a poker player,
right.
either. You would.
But there's a certain energy that I get, and I can feel it, and it's almost like filling my tank. It's like, ooh, I even have more now, and so I just want to say thank you.
Wow.
So I hope I've blessed you, but you've also blessed me as well. So, anyways, thank you all for being on the podcast. Where can people find a little bit more about you and your
Liquidgym.ca.
Okay,
So,
liquidgym.ca. Okay.
liquidgym.ca. Go to our website.
What's that?
Send us a Karen at Liquid Gym, Irene at Liquid Gym.
Okay.
We're all, or go on to our website if you want to give us a call.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
Love it.
absolutely.
All right.
Love it.
Thank you all so
Yeah.
much. Appreciate you.
Sure.
Yeah. Also.